Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin, Friday, June 10th at around 7:50 a.m. Heading into work a little bit early. Actually got out before 8 a.m. this morning. I gotta work on doing that more often. And today I want to talk about, I guess, the first real coding project that my Levinux book is going to cover. And after much consideration, I'm thinking it really should be the Alice and Bob login little routine dealing with OAuth authentication. So by this time, I have covered a argument for Unix/Linux, collectively as Nix operating systems, and described how their platform diversity that they run on opens a whole world of possibility to anyone who considers themselves technical, because the stuff they're learning applies across a lot of equipment. And then after Linux, I make the argument for Python for similar reasons. Sort of not only cross-platform argument, but a cross-problem domain or specialization argument. In Python, you'll find that there are many languages that are better than it in their specific problem domain. The one that always comes up these days is R, for doing analysis against large data sets in the ever more popular data science world. And Python's gaining a lot of popularity there because of something called the Pandas package, which leverages a lot of really awesome previously built stuff on the Python platform, most specifically NumPy. But the argument just generally goes that Python is the second best language at everything, and the first best at a few really cool, awesome things, like being not particularly fast, but really versatile system software glue, where you can make this thing work with that thing, with Python in the middle as the middleware. Middleware is a concept that Java popularized because so much hardware could run it. Well, the same is true of Python. A lot of hardware can run it, so why not use it as the sort of universal in-between layer, based on the fact that it's a language many people love to use and will go to great lengths in order to make different tools somehow connect to Python so that they are usable via Python. One of everyone's favorite sports, I always used to say, with Python, is building their own fill-in-the-blank framework, often a web framework, because Python brings you so far of the way towards your solution. You just put the last light touches, the final bit of opinionated code about how the next level up of API abstraction should work. And that's how you get like dozens of things like Flask and Bottle PY and Web App and Django. There's just so many web frameworks. Pylons, the list, Cherry Pie, web.py. There's just, So anyway, the same applies for Python with wrapping other tools. So everyone's favorite sport seems to be to make a Python wrapper around some more complicated or archaic or highly specialized tool through one way or another. And sometimes it's done through like simulating a Unix shell so that Python can run something and grab the feedback, using something very similar to Unix's input-output piping. And Python embraces a lot of these same concepts with APIs to everything, so that it can be that middleware, and instead of being a rather difficult to keep in your head and to use nimbly language like Java, it's a love-worthy, you can write things from scratch. You often look forward to the opportunity to do so, because expressing yourself in Python is just darn fun. So after I make the argument for Linux and then Python, I finally dive into a project First project being that of establishing trust between two parties, someone on the left, someone on the right. Someone who has control and access of resources such as the hardware you want to run the code on and access to the internet, and a human being who actually has a question that they need to pose that's going to need some of that processing power and some of that net access. And this is Alice and Bob saying hi to each other, acknowledging that they know who each other are, exchanging tokens of trust, and then holding on to those tokens for a very long time as they do a series of communications, making requests, fulfilling requests, until Bob, the business consumer, is done with his questions and thanks the administrator of the equipment and the resources, Alice, for her help, and they go each other's separate ways and then have the optional choice of whether to retain and for how long and under what conditions to retain those tokens of trust. So OAuth is the first technical project, authentication login, under the way things are increasingly working these days, which is the OAuth 2 scheme in particular. And it's always one of the harder aspects of a project when you get started. So I figured let's just dive into it head first, get it out of the way with a very robust and Pythonic scheme that will service our needs for a long time going forward so that we never have to worry about or think about OAuth much anymore again. And that's my plan. Thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you soon, and don't forget to subscribe.